Hey, everybody. Yesterday, me and Sean Cunningham sat down to record an episode of W.A.R Weekly, which was to be released today, March the 22nd, 2015. And we will be playing that in just a few minutes. But it was about maybe 2 or 3 hours after we wrapped that the news was really starting to circulate. That tragedy had struck the wrestling world. More specifically, an incident which I know a lot of people have probably seen the video at this point. I have. If you have not seen the video, I definitely do not recommend you go and search it out, because I think it's something that most people would say, unless you're a sick-minded person. It's something that most people probably wish they hadn't seen. I know it's something I wish I had not seen. Not a lot of things in wrestling that really sort of get tattooed on your psyche. But this is definitely something I'm going to have a hard time forgetting for quite some time. Very disturbing. Very tragic. And of course I'm talking about the death of second generation Mexican Lucha Libre legend El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, also known professionally as Perro Aguayo Jr., but of course friends and family know him as Pedro Aguayo Ramirez, who did pass away due to injuries in a match. He did pass away, I believe it was 1 a.m. was the actual pronounced time of death in the Del Prado Hospital. But something that I think has really touched a lot of people, whether you're a fan of Lucha Libre, whether you know who this guy even was, whether you even know who his father was. I think it's something that just resonates with everybody. And we definitely want to send our deepest condolences to the family of Perro Aguayo Jr. And also want to send, to everyone affected, really. We want to basically send our thoughts with them. But of course, we want to send our prayers and deepest condolences and heartfelt sorrow to Rey Mysterio and Conan, both very much sentimental favorites of this show, because we can only imagine what those guys are going through. We can only imagine what that was like to be in that situation. And I know there's been a lot of people that have been quick to rush to judgment after seeing the video and criticizing the actions. People upset with Conan shaking Perro Aguayo when he actually died of a trauma to the neck and a cervical fracture. Probably the worst thing you could do would be moving the guy's neck and shaking him. But again, none of us were in that situation. It's not uncommon for a guy to get knocked out in a match. And as far as them doing spots around him and stuff, again, none of us were in the situation that these guys were put in. And one thing I think everyone will agree with is that it's hard from seeing the video to know what really happened. Because what essentially went down, at least to the naked eye, was there was a bit of a, I don't know if it was a missed spot or any kind of a botch, maybe just a slight botch that kind of put things slightly out of position and they had to readjust to. But Perro Aguayo did this sort of roll over top of one of the guys, sort of like a drop down, and instead of just running over him, he did like a roll over him. And I mean, it didn't look super smooth, but it didn't look like anything that caused any trouble, and he popped right up. And then where you kind of saw that it might have been a bit out of position was just with Rey's Hurricane Rana, where in midair they kind of had to readjust a little bit, it looked like. And Perro went flying out of the ring. Usually that would be the spot that Rey uses to set up the 619. But it was like he went and did this Hurricane Rana. They kind of had to readjust a little bit. And Perro went flying out of the ring. And then popped up again. And ran into the ring. Or rolled under the bottom rope. And, I mean, he was going a little bit slower than usual. But at the same time, it didn't look like anything serious. And then what is being attributed to this injury causing death was what it looked like anyway, was a very light, very soft, short, because it was like he was sort of kneeling, or he was on his knees sort of thing almost. So it wasn't like a huge drop kick jumping up in the air and knocking the guy onto a flat back bump. It was just kind of a short drop kick. Looked like maybe something that was being done to sort of fix the flub a little bit and to get him back in the position he was supposed to be in for the 619. Again, this is all speculation when you watch the video. But I mean, it looked like nothing. It looked like nothing at all. And then by the time he was in position for the 619, essentially, he looked like he was close to death. And again, we can criticize, we can look at it and say, he should have done this, he should have done that. But none of us were in the ring that night. And I don't think any of those guys, from watching the video, you can tell that none of them could even have even noticed anything where they thought it might have happened. And I think that's why Conan was shaking him. I think that's why they just kept going, was because it was like, okay, he may have knocked himself out there on the rope, but nothing happened there that seemed like he got hurt. You know, it just came out of nowhere, basically. And to be in that situation, and for him to be a veteran, a legend, you'd think he has been in every kind of physical situation you could possibly be in a match, or when something goes wrong and you have to slightly readjust physically. It's just your body, and I'm not a wrestler, obviously, but I can only imagine that your body kind of gets used to, you would feel almost every kind of way of getting into something, you know, because you've done it so much. And even if this wasn't the way you were planning on falling, as it happens on the spot, you're able to adjust and make your body go where it needs to go. We kind of take this for granted, I think, you know, with wrestlers, because the bottom line is, you look at that move, it seemed like the safest thing you could ever take. There was nothing about that drop kick that said impact. And I know there's been speculation that it actually happened when he hit the rope. Maybe just wasn't fully anticipating that drop kick and fell the wrong way, got a whiplash, broken neck, or, you know, the broken spine, however it went down. Or maybe it happened with the roll. Maybe it happened earlier and it was just adrenaline that popped him up. And maybe that drop kick falling on the rope was just the final straw. We're going to have a hard time knowing this. I just feel so terrible. Obviously, first and foremost, I feel so terrible for his family. I really hope the video gets taken down. Every single one of them. And everyone that's sharing it. Because we should not live in a world where his family has to see that video, you know, where it's online, people watching him die. I certainly hope it gets taken down. I know I'll never watch it again. It wasn't anything that it wasn't anything. It's one of these things. You just curiosity gets the better of you, and I fully admit that that's my mistake. But it's just so horrible for Rey Mysterio right now during this time, because he had been so excited about getting out of WWE. He'd wanted out a year ago, and probably a long time before that. And he's had so many opportunities to do so many things that he's had to put on the back burner because WWE wouldn't allow it. And this was really a time that he deserved, I think, to be able to be on the independent market, call his own shots, get to do the business he wanted to do, not have the handcuffs on him. And it really was a revitalization of his career. I know he was very excited. And going back to Mexico, going back to AAA, working with Conan again, who is the guy that he attributes his whole career to. And also the godfather of his son, Dominic. It was supposed to be a happy time for Rey. And to be the guy that people are saying killed this guy, and the lazy journalism of Rey Mysterio kills wrestler with dropkick. For Rey, his family, Perro Aguayo's family, we just, again, want to send our deepest condolences. And we hope that this episode that we're about to present, which again was recorded a few hours before the Perro Aguayo. Another thing I just want to say too, like before we get out of here and we go to the show, is that I was going to come here in the intro originally and completely gush about how amazing the New Japan Cup was, the finals, the semifinals, last Sunday, a week ago. That was my original intro for this show, and I have not enjoyed a wrestling show by myself the way I did enjoy that New Japan Cup show. With the semifinals, we had Togi Makabe taking on Haruki Goto, and they had a very physical match. I think everybody had anticipated that Makabe would be winning, but it was actually Goto winning, and it was just kind of one of those great New Japan things where even the guy that was the underdog in that match was still somebody that was so credible, and he had been in big matches, so it wasn't something that was out of the realm of possibility. And then you had Kota Ibushi going in there with Naito, and I have not enjoyed a match that much probably since Wrestle Kingdom, but it was a totally different match than the Nakamura match. Two guys that were very similar in style, in size, both baby faces, kind of white meat baby faces. It was a really, really great, fun match, balls out. And my favorite wrestler really in the industry right now is Kota Ibushi. He's the guy that I'm most excited about watching anytime he's in the ring. I feel like he's something really, really special. And you're kind of seeing this guy in his prime, and you know this is going to be one of the greats. This is going to be one of the guys that people will talk about forever in terms of in-ring performance. I really get that feeling from him. But you look at the stuff particularly, you know, he had the finals with Goto. He had already had that insane match with Naito. And then he goes in there with Goto, and they have an insane match. All these risky things that they do. All these headshots that they take. You know, in the Naito match, a reverse Hurricane Rana that had him land right on his head. German suplexes, dragon suplexes, right on the head, right on the neck. And you watch those and you think, I don't understand how these guys are getting up. You know, there's not one moment I watch that stuff and I think, I take this for granted, or why didn't he do this like this or that? I just watch that and think, I can't believe these guys are getting up. And they are so goddamn tough. And I enjoy this product so much. I really do think it's the greatest in-ring product in terms of excitement. But at what cost, you know? You look at what happened with Ray, that drop kick, even the roll, the Hurricane Rana that was slightly, maybe a little mistimed or mispositioned. Compare that to what we saw at the New Japan Cup. All the headshots, all the neck dumps, all the Germans, all the dragons. You know, it really can happen with anything. And these guys are professionals, but it can even be the simplest thing that these guys are doing to entertain us, to give us something to talk about on our podcasts. Even the simplest thing can cause severe negative impact on their body, and in this case, even death. So I just want to say to every wrestler, whether at the indie level, whether at the very top of the mountain, WWE, New Japan, Lucha Underground, TNA, to every wrestler, thank you for doing what you do. We understand that there's times we don't appreciate you the way we should. You put your lives at risk. You put everything at risk for our entertainment. And again, we thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this show. We will not be mentioning the Perro Aguayo tragedy again, as this show was recorded yesterday before the news had been circulating. So maybe this can be just a little bit of therapy for all of us. Talk about a little bit of WrestleMania. Have a little bit of fun. The industry's going to go on. Life is going to go on. But again, this is a horrific tragedy. And we might as well just go right now to the show. And again, Godspeed, Perro Aguayo Jr.
You want to scream, but you can't. It feels like your eardrums are going to burst.
We are renegades, this means war. We are renegades, this means war. We are renegades, this means war.
Absolutely, absolutely. Was that going to be part of the evolution? Was this something you came up with, or something that Paul came up with, or the bookers, or how did that work?
At the time, Paul didn't even know I could talk.
Absolutely, 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 absolutely. That I know it's something that you've talked about a billion times before, but I have to ask it.
Mr. Sean Cunningham's like Mr. Sean Cunningham's like Mr. Sean Cunningham's like saying.
I just want to say thanks. We had a blast.
I
had a very nasty sounding voice, and I had a very bad cold, and that is now transferred over to my wonderful girlfriend, who's now fighting it off too. So I don't know if we're going to necessarily go anywhere.
Sounded a little bit like the Nature Boy Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8, actually.
Yeah.
Savage!
Oh my gosh.
When I see you, I'm gonna kiss you on your moist, wet lips. I'm totally like popping here because of all my lisping, but
very nice.
Nonetheless,
yeah.
We'll save the compressor and we'll save the mics and having to clean them later on.
Yeah.
What's the vibe in your studio right now?
Vibe in my studio, we're pretty chilled out. It's, just trying to relax, and like I said, get over illnesses, and then, over the next couple of weeks we'll get things really revved up again when the weather actually stays warmer. It was wonderful over the last couple of days, but today it's rather chilly. Rather cold up here today.
Very reminiscent of the build to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Was that Roman Reigns' best live in front of the fans promo, would you say?
Yeah, it was, and I'm shocked they waited this long to try and pull it out of him, but the thing is, I don't know what you're doing to save that match in terms of the heat, because I'm not sure there's that much heat on that match.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been references to cannibalism. I worry about that WrestleMania crowd cannibalizing this guy. And you know what? It's not just the build. It's not just the fact that it was, we've said it. It wasn't the guy that they wanted at that time. You're kind of shoving it down the people's throats, which there's always going to be certain people that are very resentful of that. And those people being the fans at WrestleMania, because it's mostly hardcore fans, it's a lot of hardcore fans. My thing is that Brock has come off so likable. That's been my biggest problem with the build lately, is that Heyman goes out there and cuts his awesome promos, and it's like, how can you boo this guy? How can you boo the fact that he's saying Brock's going to unify the UFC and the WWE Championship? Do you think that's something that people in 2015 think, oh, he's a traitor? Or is it something that you hear and you think, man, this is cool, I'd like to see that?
I fall under the second loop. I would like to see it. I don't know how legally you get around it.
No, but I'm not talking about the reality of it, even. I'm just talking about it being used in an angle in a promo to build up them as the heels against Roman, the face who's been struggling to get the good reaction.
It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what comes out of Roman's mouth. I've never seen an attempt to get somebody over resonate with the fans in such a negative way. And I argue you could go back to Triple H getting him over as a top guy, but that was a different time, and you did it a different way.
As much as last night, and I say it was a good promo, and you said the same thing, his best promo, I should say, and that he did a solid job. The fans, were still, chanting Daniel Bryan, and when they weren't doing that, they didn't seem to care at all.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know what you do. I really don't.
Was Diesel more over than Roman Reigns is when he got the belt? Was there more momentum? The fans?
I think so.
I would definitely think so.
I would think so.
I was giving you a softball there.
Yeah, I know. I realized that, but I have to think about that time frame for a minute. But the thing was, back when Diesel got I'm not sure the company was over at that point. Like,
it didn't
that's
matter.
a whole other discussion. What stood out to me was the positioning of some of the other matches. I mean, it clearly looks like they're positioning Triple H and Sting at a higher profile than Roman and Brock. They might even be positioning Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, which probably is going to be a better match. The Sting stuff was exactly the way you should do that.
And he looked good.
Yeah.
He really did look good. I thought that was sort of the best ending to Raw that they've had in a little while, in terms of it feeling like, okay, I'm excited. That was cool.
The crowd woke up.
Yeah,
which was good.
Exactly. But besides the Sting stuff, besides the, you mentioned the Randy and Seth, I thought that was super classic WWE overthinking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just tell a simple story. Honestly, that was too much. That was Russo-rific, I should say.
Like, you built it for weeks, you teased it, then we're gonna get the match we knew we were gonna get anyway. So why are you wasting 3 weeks?
Everybody knew they were getting it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. From the moment Randy came back, he was this super babyface. Like, you can't go backwards. That's my problem again. Like, they already blew that off in terms of them being an alliance. You know what I mean? Randy had his brains split open and had the curb stomp and everything before he took
on the
off.
cinder block and the
And he
whole bit.
disappeared forever. You know what I mean? He disappeared forever, and then he comes back, and it's like if Marty just came back after all that time, after being put through the barbershop window.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's just beside Sean, and he's just got his hand on, yeah, hey buddy, how are you? You know, that's not good storytelling. Even though, of course, there's the possibility that they worked it out privately. This is a television program. You can't do that kind of stuff.
Doesn't work.
It
Doesn't work on television.
No, you have to tell the people what the next step after that blow up was. You can't just go back to it being okay the way they did. And everybody knew what was coming, and they knew Randy was going to turn. Just seemed like a bunch of wasted time, really.
Oh, totally. They're at this point, they've laid out their card pretty well. They're filling 2 weeks. Like, I'm having more of an issue in my head. I'm going, how would I line up this show? Referring to WrestleMania on the 29th. What goes out when? And more importantly, what goes out last?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the risk now of Roman, too. Like,
if this guy's the champion and they're celebrating and it's supposed to be, why is everybody booing?
The Looney Tunes episode that's sort of been wedged in the middle of Raw.
Yeah.
Dang.
They're trying to fill space. They're trying to make sure guys get paid. That's why there's 6 guys in a ladder match.
And Daniel Bryan and Dean Ambrose being in there. I've had this argument, this debate. We've gone around in circles with a lot of people. I just feel like anybody thinking that them being involved is bringing this thing up in any way, it's the reverse effect.
It's the opposite effect.
Can we just admit this now and get on the same page? It's bringing them down because the angle is so bad.
Yes. If the angle had been executed properly, which it hasn't been at all, you could say you're elevating the title by having Ambrose and Bryan, and even you're elevating the other guys, Wade Barrett and Luke Harper, and all these guys that are involved in this match. But that's not what's happening. It's the devaluation of the Intercontinental title over the last 5 to 10 years is bringing all these guys down.
You know, let's say Daniel Bryan does win the Intercontinental title. And we can all have our fantasies of they're going to restore the faith in the Intercontinental title. Every Intercontinental champion, once he wins that title, loses every match on television.
Agreed.
So how prestigious could it be
No.
when the champion, not just Wade Barrett or whoever the champion is now, I don't even know who the champion is, Sean. Who is the champion?
Champion right now is Wade Barrett.
Okay, and he has
You're
his
right.
title back now?
Oh, that's right. He did. You're right. He did.
Right, okay.
So whether he has it by the beginning of SmackDown, we'll never know.
But anyways, you know, it's just, we've beat it to death. I'd like to see a good match, and I think we're going to see, as far as the in-ring match, I think it's going to be really good. And if that's all you're after, by God, this is going to be the WrestleMania for you. But, you know, again, why can't you find something a little better to get there? That's all I'm going to say. And
No,
and
that's
there's
the point.
the old-fashioned way of building up a title, which is, you know, have a guy win now and then.
Yeah. Well, unless this is an idea of, are they going to start doing things with a long-term plan to rebuild all these titles and do all these things? Because you and I talked about it on the last time you and I were on the air together about eventually this company has to transition because the person running the company may not be Vince McMahon in 4 or 5 years. It may be Triple H.
In 4 or 5 years, eh?
That's what I'm guessing.
It's going to take divine intervention, I tell you that much.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, it would be so simple. This is the thing. They really don't even realize how simple it would be. And as always, they're overthinking everything. We said that about the Randy and Seth. Everybody saw it coming. So it's not even a good angle, you know? It's just one of those things that you're just basically wasting time to tell a story on TV.
Yep.
Just filling time. So.
Well, this goes back to what you and I have said before. They have too much TV to fill.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing 5 hours a week of new television every week to build for one 4-hour show over 6 weeks. So
You know what's
do the
funny?
math.
In some ways, the greatest thing that could ever happen to WWE. Sorry if I'm starting to slur my speech. This Guinness is getting
Did
to me a
Guinness
little
kick
bit
in
now.
A little bit?
Little bit. Just kicked in with that last sentence. But, I was thinking about this the other day, believe it or not. In some ways, the greatest thing that could ever happen to this company would be for it to fall into financial ruin. Because it would not only force them to get creative and to get hungry and everything that they're not right now, but it would also force them to go back to the proper way of doing television. And the proper way of doing television is not what we're doing right now. There's no reason for live television.
No.
Wrestling was a million times better. There was a million times more quality control. There was a million times more continuity in it when you could do it long in advance. I know that the internet is kind of a thing, as the main problem with that right now, that it ruins all the results months in advance or whatever. But you could still do live TV, but I would love it if the company had no choice but to go back to taping a whole bunch of stuff at once. Because you know that they would have time, I would hope and think, they would have time to make it better.
Well,
you know what I mean?
well,
They'd
they
have
do.
more time to work with what they had.
Okay, look at NXT. If you get a chance to see NXT, they can that show 2 weeks in advance minimum. Okay? That show looks so polished. That is what wrestling should look like. You have that time. There is no need to do 3 hours of live television every Monday. None.
Anyways, next topic. Go ahead.
Go on to the next topic. The next topic being just the idea of how little
They've used Sting. What are they going to do with the match?
And why did he cut the promo on the network afterwards?
Yeah, I don't get that.
They have been so afraid of him. They've been so afraid of him talking. You can really tell that they've been really terrified to let him do a promo. And I know, Sean, you've watched Sting for a long time, the greater part of your adult life.
Yes.
Some of your teenage life, I'm sure, as well.
Yes.
I mean, I understand when people say that he was kind of a cliche babyface promo, but he never struck me as somebody that was, you had to be afraid to put him on TV with a mic in his hand.
Good Lord, no. The thing that I don't understand is they can't decide what Sting character they want. The Sting character that they're portraying on Raw that we're seeing is the mute, silent Sting character, which is fine. But then stick to it. The promo he cut on the network for 3 minutes was 1996 Sting. Was very like, I'm excited to be here and Triple H, I'm going to kick your ass. Which is your prototypical wrestling promo.
Yeah, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that at all.
No, that is the type of wrestling promo that this company forgets about and doesn't seem to want to do because they're so damn hung up on not being considered a wrestling show.
As far as the build to this, I think it's been probably the best build on the show. The Rusev build was good too until last night.
Yeah.
Where did they get this, as Bobby Heenan would say, ham and egger?
I don't know because that build fell off a cliff.
And Vince was in that fucking headset. Was he ever in that headset last night? Holy shit.
Well, where they found him, he just...
Oh, for the love of God. But as far as that goes, do you see Cena winning the U.S. title? Is that where we're heading with this?
Yep.
Yeah?
I don't see... This entire thing has been built around Rusev has not been pinned or submitted. This thing has also been built around Cena is like the last hope for America or something ridiculous, which is stupid. But that's the way they're building it. And you're not doing what you should be doing with it. If you're going to make him rah-rah America, then make him rah-rah.
He's pretty rah-rah.
But he's not like, wrap yourself in the flag, America's great. This is the... okay, Rusev's character is out of the 1980s. If it's out of the 1980s, then book it that way. Because it still works. And I've never seen Cena walk down with the flag. Ever. But I think the idea... well, we know the original idea was to have Rusev lose, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's been talked about for almost 6 months now. That was to get to this point and to keep him strong and to referring to Rusev and to get Cena versus Rusev for the U.S. title so Cena can be the guy that finally beats him. Why Vince is suddenly having a panic attack over it, is he trying to devalue the match? I don't quite understand what the premise was in last night, other than to run the guy down for what reason. You're trying to do things to devalue certain matches because they're not your main event. Or they're not perceived to be your main event.
I don't think they're trying to devalue. I honestly think this is just what they think is good these days.
Well, you're doing a good job devaluing your talent. I realize that's not the intent.
They're doing
but
a fantastic job. The best job they've ever done.
Yeah.
I agree. They're doing an awesome job devaluing their talent and their titles and their pay-per-views, quite honestly, with Royal Rumble this year. So,
well, my question is, why are you spending all this time trying to bring the I understand the conversation that we had about they want WWE to be like, when you see WWE, you just want to go see WWE, you don't care who's wrestling. But that's stupid. I don't know. I've heard a lot for the first time in a few years. I don't know if I'm going to watch this show. I look at it as if your hardcore fan is finally saying, I've had enough.
Luigi Tyrone, for instance.
Yes.
He's not saying I've had enough.
No, but he's getting pretty close to that.
He's getting pretty fed up.
He's fed up. And I personally don't blame him, but, that's an aside. No, but I've read other people and I've seen other things. People are just not that into it. And it's not the build or the talent. It's just the fans feel like they're being insulted. And the other thing is they haven't done enough to build up this talent. We could spend a whole other show talking about the circumstances as to why you have all this young talent that doesn't look credible, that don't feel like main event guys.
Well, it's interesting that you bring all this up.
Okay.
Because, again, it's easy to complain or it's easy to criticize, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But maybe you need to show some of the people out there what they're missing, because you say there's lots of great talent, and they've just found a way to kind of use them wrong, whether they're being miscast in the sense of Roman Reigns this year. I'd say that would be an example. So why don't we just play this game, and it's called
Every day I write the book. Every day.
Sean Cunningham Writes the Book.
Okay.
We are going to go to WWE.com. We're going to go to the roster section. And Sean, what I want you to do here,
Okay.
I don't want you to be like WWE and get all cute and overthink things.
No. Okay.
I want you to go with the very, very first natural thing that pops to your head when I mention a talent's name and what you would do with them if you were the booker of WWE. And we're going to start with Adam Rose. Now, maybe there's somebody that when I mention one of these names, maybe there's somebody that you think maybe they should work a program with. Maybe they're not playing the right character, or maybe you see them in a certain way and this is how you would market them, or this is how you would sort of brand them, okay? Adam Rose. What do you see in Adam Rose?
A couple of changes I would make. First, I would get rid of the crazy dancing posse that's with the Exotic Express. Get rid of that. And I would make him a much harder edge heel. No comedy, no goofy crap.
So you don't see him as a comedy guy. You don't find him particularly funny.
The comedy works as a babyface, not as a heel. I would keep him as a heel because you could always play the snooty European, I'm better than you, I can out wrestle you, I can do all these things. And you can do all those things with Adam Rose.
And you'd make him a heel. So more like a Leo Kruger almost.
Yeah, totally.
You like that kind of character better.
Yeah, I think it would work for him better in WB as it stands right now. But coming up to the main roster, I would make him a heel, and I would make him kind of this arrogant, almost bad, that can just do submissions and wrestle the hell out of you.
Is he on about where he is on the card that he is now in WWE in reality? Or
yeah,
would you have him higher? Middle of the card?
I'd have him a little bit higher, but it depends on, what you want to do with him in terms of who you want him to work with. You could put, from what I know, you could put him in there with almost anybody and he can wrestle with anybody, but he's not being allowed to showcase that kind of talent.
Next talent, I know that there's some interesting circumstances, and maybe looking long term, you would be a little shy of, to work with this talent, but AJ Lee.
AJ Lee playing I like the character that she was doing prior to her hiatus there, when she's doing the crazy psycho, but I can kick your butt kind of character, and I thought that was really, and she was overdoing that character. If you take away her personal associations with Mr. Brooks there, her husband, I think she's a really strong character, and surprisingly so for somebody that when you put her even up against all the other divas, she's physically tiny. But she could just be this badass that can kick your head off and can talk. One of the few people that I think could talk you into a building as a fan.
Now, is there somebody that you see her working with that could bring out the most in her? Whether it be either from NXT or from the main roster, or somebody being overlooked right now?
I would be really intrigued, not necessarily somebody who's overlooked right now, but I would really be interested to see her be kind of this wrestling sometimes, but almost being like a valet or a manager for somebody like Kevin Owens.
Whoa, that's Beauty and the Beast. Holy shit. Alicia Fox.
Alicia Fox.
What would Sean do with Alicia Fox? And just know your girlfriend might be listening.
I don't know. What I do with Alicia Fox? Based on what she could do, I would think about continuing some of the stuff they did because I thought there was something behind it. When she was doing the crazy tear up the building, tear up the when she'd lose and throw those wicked temper tantrums, I thought that was really cool, and they could have done more with it than they did. I would probably have continued on that road than just abandoned it, and I would have done. It seems like physically she's able to do a lot. And I would just have her be more of a kind of the combination of crazy yet just physically kind of dominate the other divas, and I think that could work.
Interesting. I actually thought, never mind, I don't have the book. Going up next, no, what I was going to say is I actually thought she'd make a really good valet for somebody at some point. I think she's very underutilized.
Oh no, totally, and I agree with her. I just don't have a person off the top of my head to pair her with. I completely agree with you. I would love to do that, but I don't have that person. Nobody sticks out to me right off the top of my head to pair her with.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Wade Barrett.
I don't like him losing all the time on TV. I think that's stupid. You have this really big guy who's obviously athletically talented, and you could really raise him up to that next level, closer to the world title if you wanted to. I think that'd be interesting. And the other thing you could do is kind of do a new riff on the Blue Bloods if you wanted to pair him with Adam Rose. And you could either make a tag team or make them kind of these English bullies in parallels of like either soccer hooligans or just be like guys who could fight, and you could make stars out of them, whether they be a tag team or whether they be kind of running roughshod over some top guys. So I think they're both Barrett and Rose are athletically gifted enough to do that.
You're looking at the roster. Is Wade Barrett mid-card, undercard, or main eventer?
Wade Barrett should probably be in the upper mid-card, being groomed to be a main eventer someday, if he can stay healthy.
His promo skills, I guess, too, would definitely help there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he can really talk.
He can talk very well, and I understand why they have him in the position that they do. I think part of the reason that he's not being pushed any higher up is because he tends to be a little bit injured prone.
Big E Langston. Or just Big E.
Just Big E, no. First of all, I'd give him a last name. Let's
You bring back the Langston?
I'd bring back Langston or find something else for him. I like the look. I don't know if him as a heel fits his personality, though. And that's, like, I want to, like, he reminds me a bit of, like, if going back to WC, here's a name of the past, Ice Train. A lot like that. And WCW didn't know what to do with him either. And I'd probably pair him with, somebody along the lines of, like, maybe a Cesaro.
Moving along, Big Show.
Big Show needs to be treated as an attraction. You bring him in for a big match, or you bring him in to fight a celebrity because he's always safe. He should not be on television every week, or you bring him in for a storyline when you need a story for 5 or 6 weeks. I just think he's being overutilized right now. That's not a knock on his talent. That's just the way he should be booked, considering his size, his look, and his advanced age.
Okay, up next, Girl Bye, Cameron.
She needs to be somebody's valet. I don't know how much ring time she really needs to have.
So you got something for her, though.
I would completely change the gimmick, I think. I don't like the almost ditzy screaming.
Okay, but you can fire her, but you're telling me you see something in her you think you might be able to, if changing things around, a new coat of paint, she might have something that you can use.
I could probably find something.
Yeah, I would agree, actually.
Because the look is good.
Oh, yes.
Very.
I
see her as like a valet doing things for find with a male character.
You see a spark of personality in her, don't you?
Yeah, there's personality there, and I think if you did a male character kind of like the asshole boyfriend character thing, maybe with somebody like a Dolph or a Jack Swagger kind of is nicer, but eventually you just start treating her like dirt, and then you turn her babyface. You never go with somebody else. I think, but you keep her in that valley role. I don't know how often you have her in the ring, if at all.
She definitely has the heel gene, I think. I wouldn't make her a face, but again, you could do a lot of things.
Eventually you make her a face. I'm not saying you do it like right off, but eventually if you do the right story, you could turn her face.
Cesaro
would be elevated to the main event, period. There's not a lot I would change about Cesaro. I loved the King of Swing gimmick they were doing, and the Swiss Superman thing when he was doing all the power. I wouldn't change it. I would just elevate his position. Well, we know the reasons why he's not in the position that some of us think he should be.
Gut instinct. Is he a heel or is he a babyface?
Right now he's a heel, but I wonder if it wouldn't take long for the fans to turn a babyface.
Now, would you put him with somebody? Does he need a manager, or is he okay on his own? What do you think?
I think his promos are okay enough on his own. I would prefer to put him with somebody who can talk for him, but I don't know who to get. The only other person I would think of, and it'd be an interesting choice because he doesn't work there. I'd go get somebody like a Steve Corino from ROH to talk for him.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Axelmania, Curtis Axel, what are you doing with him?
As much as I want to find a spot for him, I can't.
He's on the chopping block?
He's on the chopping block. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but...
Just don't see anything there?
No, I don't, unfortunately. Other than the stuff they've tried to do with him.
Damian Sandow, the Mizdow.
I know there's a direction there. There's something there. There's a lot of wrestling talent there. I think there's a lot of athletic talent. And he's really good on the microphone, but I think you need to change his gimmick. Actually, I think about... Remember I talked about Cameron?
Yeah.
Put Cameron with him. And change his gimmick, get rid of the beard, and put a biker jacket on him. And it would work.
A biker? That's pretty cool, actually. I like that.
See?
I don't know if he's got the badass thing down to really pull off the jacket, but who knows, maybe.
If you shave the beard off. I'm saying change the look completely.
Sean Cunningham's gut instinct is to put a motorcycle jacket on Damian Mizdow, folks. Coming up next, somebody that I think a lot of people have had a lot of opinions on how he's been positioned, but I'd like to know how you would position him if you were given the book, Sean Cunningham. The one, the only, the incomparable Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan should be main eventing WrestleMania, period.
And why is that?
Because he's the best in-ring talent you have. And despite a fear of not being able to cut a promo, he certainly can do that too. And he just has this charisma that nobody else in your roster has. And the other thing you should be doing with him is if you want to bring somebody up to a level, you need to put them in there with Daniel Bryan and see what they have. Daniel Bryan...
Is there a natural program, a natural opponent, something that you see with him that could really take this thing over the top and just make him, the solidified superstar that he needs to be?
I think he is the solidified superstar, but I think there's people currently in WWE that don't like that.
So what would be the best thing? Who would be his best dancing partner right now?
The best dancing partner that I think would be...
For a big match,
For a big, big payoff would probably be him going in there with Brock Lesnar. And that would solidify him if he beat Brock Lesnar.
You're a regular Pat Patterson. Dean Ambrose.
I think he needs to be a little higher up. Although I would remove some of the people that are higher up now.
Yeah, again, eventually you're going to have to, you're sort of, you haven't said anybody's necessarily main event other than Bryan. So you're going to need some main eventers. So is he a guy you put in the top bracket or no?
I think he is a guy that you need to put up there. Because he's good enough in the ring and it's an entirely different character than anything you have now. I'd keep the crazy gimmick going. I'd keep the dark kind of, you don't know what he's going to do. That's one of the few things that's working.
That's natural,
as long as it's positioned properly. The problem with it right now, as we mentioned earlier, it's not positioned in the right place. It's positioned in the lower mid-card doing comedy. It should be nowhere near that. When he was doing the program with Bray Wyatt, that went for 3 months, that was some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard. You know, and all the little subtle kind of pokes at each other and jabs at certain things. I thought that was done so well. You could still make Dean Ambrose a dark character and go against even a Daniel Bryan per se, and talk about how Bryan has this he's worked hard, but he has this, you know, the lovely wife in the house, and he's a...
And I mean, when they do decide to go that way and have him do a heel run, this guy's going to be unstoppable. If they give him the ball, I mean, he's going to be the best heel they've had in years. Since probably CM Punk, you know?
Which is a scary thought. Hopefully he doesn't...
No, there's an unbelievable heel run in him when they're ready to do that. The problem was, and I think that he already would be the top heel right now over Seth Rollins. The problem is that the fans really started to like him.
Yeah.
You know, and it just became one of those things. This guy's really popular. At least they did, and again they kind of cooled him off. So he's a guy though that you see your gut instinct is, yeah, that guy's going to be in my top bracket of guys.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
100%.
Next up, El Torito.
Do I have to?
Okay. Next up, Emma.
Okay.
Gorgeous
girl.
Australian.
Australian, you know, like that. If you're going to keep going to that market twice a year, you need to have that. I don't.
Do you see talent? Do you see in-ring talent in her?
There's in-ring talent there. I don't know what to do with the gimmick. I don't want to go down the stereotype road with her.
To me, I'm just going to sort of jump in. You can be Gato and I'll be Jado here.
Okay.
I'll be assistant booker.
Thank you.
What was I talking about? Oh, she looks like the real girl next door, you know?
Yes.
And you could really market that, I think. Because again, maybe it's just me, but I find her very attractive.
No, she is very attractive.
Kofi Kingston.
Very talented guy, very good talker whenever they let him talk. It's not very often. You could do any number of things with him. You could easily do something... I see something similar to a cross between the $1 Million Man and Dean Douglas with him, because he is a very smart guy, almost, but more as a heel. Kind of the I'm smarter than you heel, because he really is. Actually, you could put Kofi and Xavier in a tag team and make them do that gimmick.
So you like those two together?
I do. I don't like the New Day thing, really. I understand politically that it's being done politically, but I don't like the New Day. Xavier and Kofi would be the I'm smarter than you kind of, I have an education, talk over the fans, put them in suits from time to time, you know, and just have them go out there and cut those kind of promos. But they're still very good talents and can do a lot in the ring. I would have them both in the ring. But maybe wrestling a different style. But you can make them almost this, you know, I'm smarter than you tag team, and then let the fans kind of gauge what they want to do. I'm sure they'd be heels at first.
Okay, just a few more, and then we'll get out of here. Luke Harper.
First things first, I would have never broken up the Wyatts yet. Let's start there. The Wyatts would, in my world, the Wyatts would still be together. Or at least you would have done a job explaining why they broke up, because you never did. I like the gimmicks. I like what they were doing with them. And I would continue using the Bruiser Brody references, and I would probably eventually have him do a match with Bray, and then let the fans decide who is the face and who is the heel. Because I don't have an inkling as to which way to go with it.
I like that idea. I always thought that would be the best way to go, is to have eventually Luke Harper be the one that breaks off, you know, when the time is right.
Yeah.
And he would be the guy to sort of fight the other ones, and maybe they could bring somebody else in to replace him. You could always get back to those three as a unit, I think.
You've never explained why they left.
Exactly. It's fine for just Vince to one day wake up and say, God damn, they've been together too long. But at least come up with some kind of a reason. You've already invested all this TV time, you know? Yeah. I like that. I like him as the modern day Bruiser, and I think that he would have been a perfect guy to turn babyface out of that, because I think the fans kind of want to like him.
Yeah.
He's so talented, too, in the ring, you know?
Well, and I think that's like, as much as he's a heel, he's a great heel. There's so much talent there, and smart, and all his smart people can see how talented and athletic the guy is.
The Miz.
Okay.
No, seriously, what would you do with The Miz? What would you do with The Miz? About it. Creative has nothing for you?
No, it's not that I don't. To be honest, I've not really put a lot of time into The Miz, because to be honest, I've never liked the guy, but that's a different point. I think I want to reward him because I think he works hard, and because I think they can definitely use him. But I don't have anything Again, I like what they're doing with him with the Hollywood thing. If it works, it's probably the first time they've used him properly.
Babyface or heel?
Heel, 100% heel. I can't buy him as a babyface. I don't think the fans buy him as a baby, even when they tried.
Undercard, midcard, main event.
Midcard. I understand why they tried to move him up a couple of years ago, but that clearly to me failed miserably. I understand they were trying to reward him for being a bit of a good soldier at the time, but I think the fans, he's not convincing enough to be, a champion.
From myself, from the Commissioner Sean Cunningham, that was fun. I think we'll continue to do that. I have more talent that I'd like to get your thoughts on. But anyways, what's the plan now for you?
I'm gonna look at some more video this week, and as we get ready for WrestleMania, and hopefully later this week, I'm gonna do a little piece that hopefully will be up on our network, talking about the build and everything that led up to WrestleMania 1.
Now, what was your first WrestleMania that you ever saw? Was it WrestleMania 1?
No, first WrestleMania I ever saw, I guess, live, or the first thing I ever saw.
Yeah, even the first one you ever rented.
First one I ever rented was the first one. Just that's the way my dad did it when I was a 7-year-old kid. That happened to be. I got into wrestling around 1986, leading into WrestleMania 2. So my dad, when he rented me a videotape, the first WrestleMania I ever saw was first wrestling tape my dad ever rented for me was WrestleMania 1. Was it
a local video store in Brampton or what?
Yes, it was. Yeah, local video store, and my parents actually were friends with the owners at the time, so we always found it when stuff was coming in a little bit early too.
Very much so. Well, next week is the go-home edition of Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania. We only got 1 week left. I guess they're doing the big face-to-face confrontation between Roman and Brock. So that should be interesting at least. And from myself, from the Commissioner, we'll be talking to you guys next week as we're on the road to WrestleMania. Question mark?
Definitely question mark.
And we want to say peace. We want to say love. And as always, Shanzi, tell them the rest.
Wrestling Audio Revolution.
Part of the evolution, was it something you came up with, or something that Paul came up with, or the bookers, or how did that work?
At the time, Paul didn't even know I could talk.
I know it's something that you've talked about a billion times before, but I have to ask it.
The Commissioner Sean Cunningham's like...